Hello, hello, hello. The takeaway, how is it going? Today, I have a very special guest. It is somebody I look up to, somebody I've recently met, Bryce McKinley. Bryce, how are you?
Dude, I am too blessed to be stressed, you know? I'm excited. I'm excited, man.
Dude, I'm so excited to have you. I was telling my sales team about you. We saw your sales video. Man, dude, you're amazing. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here with us.
Yeah, I appreciate you. And shout out to Tim Mai for putting on a quick little summit and how we got connected, man. So thank you, Tim, for connecting us. And man, I'm glad to be connected with you, bro.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. So, for those of you who don't know Bryce, I'm going to just introduce Bryce very quickly. Bryce McKinley is an international best-selling author and one of the top 5 sales trainers in the world. With over 20 years of working with various Fortune 500 companies, including not limited to the likes of Ford, Nissan, Tyco, and ADT, helping each of them transform their sales processes to focus on better conversations and building better relationships. Bryce stumbled on real estate wholesaling and figured out how to use what he knew from sales to generate leads and start closing deals in his first month. What's more impressive is he didn't spend a dime on advertising or marketing. And when he started it all from his local library, from the back seat of his car. With over 8,000 transactions in real estate, Bryce is one of the leading experts in wholesaling. And he's got his 5-hour flip method and has been able to pretty much close every single deal over the phone. I think you've only walked 5 properties. Is that right, Bryce?
Yeah, I think we're up to 6 or maybe 7 now, but 99.99% of our transactions over the last 10 plus years have been virtual. Yeah.
Wow. Bryce is also a co owner of Every House, a real estate company focused on providing the best deals for sellers' homes. So, Bryce, that is just a fraction of an intro. Dude, what are you doing these days? What are you up to right now?
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. So first, thank you so much, Munif, for having my team and I on. I get to be the face of this organization, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but my team enjoys it. I enjoy it, and at the end of the day, this isn't about me. This is about the people that we've helped, and so I'm excited to be able to share and break down this seller call and exactly what I did and what you guys listening, guys and gals. I'm from up north, so we say you guys. I mean all of you, ladies and gentlemen, all of you. I'm excited to break down this seller call with you guys, but more, closer to home. And what I'm doing nowadays is what I call evangelism. And a lot of times people, when they think of evangelism, they think of, belief systems and things like that. And while, yes, that's a part of it, I'm also the evangelist for our business. Every house is a marketing just strong arm. We've all heard of realtor.com and Zillow.com and all of those. Every house is right up there with an opportunity to provide leads for both our acquisition team and the people that we partner and coach, as well as, agents and lenders and title companies and lawyers across the country. Every house is just this massive marketing arm. And then we have REI Results, which is this company here. And we named it that because we're geared toward results, not just results in our own personal business, but in our personal walk, in spiritual relationships and personal development relationships. And we want results in the real estate industry, right? We think of REI as real estate investing, but REI to us is the real estate industry. We own a brokerage, we have an investment company, we have a pretty decent portfolio, and we wholesale and we coach. And so for us, results is just where it starts. We all get into this business for results. And so it's personally a motto of ours. Our company, mission statement is to build a badass team doing big ass deals that set out to change the lives and world that we have an opportunity to affect. So that's what we're up to, man. I'm just out here evangelizing and telling everybody what we do.
That's amazing. That's so freaking awesome. Thank you, Bryce. And so you hinted at it, and I want to get into it. We've got an awesome seller call that we're going to be dissecting in today's episode. And so,
Dude, I'm
guys,
excited.
if you're watching, so I've got Ralph from my sales team here. He said, I watched the seller call. I'm extremely excited to study it. Thank you for sharing it. So I've got the Facebook comments going off here. We've got Desiree saying the seller call was amazing. I actually pre-shared the call with my sales team because I was like, guys, you guys got to watch this. I wrote, watch this call and then watch it again and then watch it again. Yeah. So they have been watching it all weekend. And we are going to be sharing this call for free for the people who are watching. We're going to show a real live demo of one of the top closers in the world structure a real estate transaction. There's so much beauty in this call. As a sales student myself, I was like writing notes, man. I was analyzing. I'm so excited to jump into this call with you.
Man, I'm excited. And I think before we dive into that, I think it's important to know that if you're a salesperson, or maybe you're a real estate agent or broker, or maybe you're an investor like the two of us here on this call, one of the things that I learned on way back when I first got started, and yes, this hat makes me look young, but years ago, when you know what time it is, right? The thing that I learned was this twofold. Number one, process over systems. So before you start adding, different skip trace services and different this service and this service, master the process. And then the second thing that I learned was when you're in the presence of masters, ask questions. So if you guys are watching, whether you're live right now or coming back on the replay, make sure you drop a comment. It helps the both of us here on the stream get engagement, but it's also going to help you and other people. And so drop a comment. Let us know whether you're watching this live or on the replay. And as we dig into this, make sure that you ask questions, because here's the deal. I don't want you guys to just take my word for it. I've been hired by some of the greatest minds in the world: Dr. Eric Thomas, Les Brown, Myron Golden, Tony Robbins, Tyco Corporation, Nissan, Toyota, Honda, Ford Motor Company, to teach this process that we're about to break down in this call. And you guys get to learn this for free. And so I want to talk about that process real quick. There's 5 steps that you're going to see in this call. And the first step is really kind of shortchanged, because I was on this call and it was a lead from my acquisition team. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to record this. And so I jumped in about 10 minutes into the call and hit live record on Facebook Live. But I'm already like 3/4 of the way in to step 1. But the point that I'm trying to make is that there's 5 steps to every conversation. And I'll just give you guys these real quick, so that way you understand as we break this call down what's really going on and happening. So I always equate it to, am I going too fast here?
No, I love this. I'm actually writing notes.
Okay. So I know we're limited on time because of some technical difficulty, but I want to make sure we get that first, and then we'll break down and show you guys what happened. So
okay, please
I
go
always
ahead.
equate the sales process or conversations to working out at the gym. So what's the first thing that we do when we work out at the gym? Take a guess.
Pre-workout.
That's it. Pre-workout. We warm up. And so a lot of sales trainers out there teach a method called warm with Ford, F-O-R-D. However, I cannot technically train that because of my agreement with Ford Motor Company 20 some odd years ago. And so they took my process, copyrighted it and all that. But what I can teach you is warm with form. F-O-R-M stands for family, occupation, recreation, always solves motivation. You'll never solve someone's money or motivation issues if you don't know what they're for. And so you need to start by asking 3 to 5 questions about their family, 3 to 5 questions about their occupation, 3 to 5 questions about what they do for fun. And you'll see interwoven between the 3 of those topics that once you've done that and you've got, 9 to 15 questions answered and you start to banter back and forth, you'll find what their true motivators are. Okay. So that's step number 1, warm with form. Step number 2 is what I call bridging the gap. And another way to look at that is when we're working out at the gym, you don't just start bench pressing 300 pounds, right? Or leg pressing 500 pounds.
No.
100, 150, 200, 225, 250, 275, 300, right? You bridge the gap, you start to move the needle. And it's the same thing that we do in banter, in conversation. We start to tiptoe into the business. And the number one fail that I find in salespeople is that they want to jump right in and start talking about price and then overcome all these objections. And you're starting out on the wrong foot. And so what we can do is what I call current reality versus desired reality. If we start to bridge the gap in step 2 between the two, well, guess who the bridge is? The one in the middle. The one in the middle playing puppet master, right? So we take a weight at the gym and we put it on. And I might say something like, most of the time people do this and they do that. Do you have the same types of questions? And what I'm doing here is I'm going to take this person from their current reality and I'm going to show them a glimpse, just a snapshot of their desired reality. Because why? People want to be like other people that have had success in what they're about to go through. So if they're in a tough situation here, they want to sell their house successfully. They want to feel like those other people. So we categorize them. We may have heard the term keeping up with the Joneses, right?
Right. Yep.
We've all heard that. People like to have better, nicer things to be like somebody else, and they idolize and put a value on that. So if we can do that by asking the better questions, like, most of the people I work with want to know what I do and how I do it, but more importantly, how much I can offer for their house. Do you have those same types of questions? Well, guess what? We just took them from their current reality to their desired reality. And then besides that, help me understand why you want to sell this house today. Boom, put them back in their current reality so they just got a glimpse. And then we can start teeter-tottering between the rapport and the business. So then comes step 3. And in step 3, when you're at the gym, it doesn't matter if you're starting out or you're an expert. At step 3, we're lifting these weights. And we're at rep 8, rep 9, rep 10. We start to create limiting beliefs or muscle fatigue. We're not any less strong. We're actually stronger, right? And so in step 3 of the conversation, I call it asking defeating questions. Side note or sub note to that would be, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So a lot of us in this industry walk around in through houses in person or even on the phone, and we're like, gosh, how old is the roof? Well, instantly that seller is just like, I just had it looked at 3 years ago. Well, the difference between being looked at and being placed new are 20 years apart. But now they put a guard up versus asking a defeating question like, gosh, I'm curious, Munif, when was the last time you had that roof looked at? Oh, I just had it 3 years ago. Wow, 3 years ago you had it looked at. And haven't you had storms since then? Notice the tonality, the curiosity behind it. It starts to create a limiting belief. And as you talk about the roof and the foundation and the plumbing and the electrical and the kitchen, the bathroom, the walls, the floors, the paint, the fixtures, now what they value here ends up here. And you guys are going to see that. I talked this person down from $350,000 down to a damn good price at $230,000. Like, I'm excited. And
I'm
that's what
so
I'm
excited.
doing. Yeah.
Okay, so that's 3. So you ask them the defeating questions, and then what's 4?
I mean, at step 4, what happens at the gym, right? You've got all this weight and you can't do it no more. What do? You rack the bar, right? You close the set. Step number 4 is you close the deal. You go in for the jugular. You close the deal. You get the email, you type up the contract, and you send the deal, right? And then step number 5 is what we call warm down with form. Because at the gym, we don't just like walk out. Well, if you were like me 2 years ago, you just walk out of the gym every 3 months when you did work out and you go get an ice cream because you reward yourself. But now, as I've gotten better in the gym, but you warm down with form. Munif, I'm so glad that we could check this off your list and do this podcast today with you, man. How are you going to go celebrate sharing this with your team?
Awesome. Okay, so you kind of you end it with some rapport. You congratulate them. You make them feel really good.
Yeah. That's it. You would ask a question about their family or their occupation or their recreation, or maybe they mentioned earlier in the conversation that they had a soccer game. Hey, I'm rooting for you guys tonight at the soccer game. Like, what position does your boy play? Right? Ended on a good note. Guess what? They'll call you back when they want to sell again because you took care of them. You truly gave a darn, right? And so we worn down with form. Now, those are the 5 steps of the process or pieces of the puzzle. What some of you watching this for the first time didn't catch was the little thing right in the middle, right between steps 3 and 4, where I said we rack the bar. So if you're writing notes, draw kind of like a half circle around those 5 steps on one side and put rack, R-A-Q. And what that stands for is repeat, assign a feeling or an emotion, and ask a question. So I'll give you guys an example. Munif, do me a favor. Just throw a random statement, similar to like the sky is blue. Just throw a random statement out there to me.
Okay. I'm kind of hungry right now.
You're kind of hungry now. Gosh, that sounds frustrating. What do you plan on eating?
I don't know.
Hold on, you guys. This is a mock role play. Notice how he didn't want to dissect and ask me a question. He thought about it. He hesitated. His body language is like, "Well, what?" And he's going to think about, even in a mock role play, he's going to think a second longer and want to answer.
Yep.
When you do that from start to finish and you repeat what somebody says and you put a feeling or an emotion on it and then ask a question, well, guess what? It makes it internal. People love to talk about themselves. And so they'll give you more information, or what I like to call ammo. So those are the 5 steps that we're going to break down in this conversation. And I'll show you some more in depth as we do it. But before we get started, I'm curious what questions you have for me, because I just went through that fast.
That was awesome. So this is like what I really love about your process. You've got your current reality. All right, maybe their house is worth $250K, and then you've got their desired reality, right? They think it's worth $350, and it's just about starting at their desired reality and then kind of teeter-tottering back. Here's reality, but we don't have to stay here for long. We'll come back. And then you break them down with these questions, and then you bring them toward you. You bridge that gap, and I see you do it in the call, right? It's so interesting that because if I were to take that same call, it would have taken me, and I'll tell you, 5 or 6 phone calls to do what you did in one call. It would have taken me. I would have had to call back and done it over time, and you figured out a way to systematize it and do it very efficiently. I can't think of a time where I've seen a price go down that efficiently, and you did it exactly using the method you talk about. So I'm really excited to dive right in.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's taken years. I grew up in a rough neighborhood where I had to ask better questions to persuade people to do things, right, and protect my family and myself. And then getting into corporate world where, in less than 2 years, I went from some car wash boy to the #1 car salesman in the world. Right. And then recruited out of my dealership. And here I am, this reformed gangster thug with former tattoos on his face, that's trying to fit in the corporate world. And so, my very first mentor just said, trust the process. So I'm notorious for saying that. Trust the process. And at the same time, you may say something 1,000 times. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And know this, it will be the first time that the other person in the communication event has ever heard it come out of your mouth, which should give you the confidence to just go in for it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? They tell you no, and then you rack them. No, you sound frustrated. What could we have done differently to make this a deal for you? Or however you want, to pose that, right?
Rack. I love that. So repeat, assign an emotion, and then question. You did it to me in this mock role play, and I was I went real self-conscious. What do I want to eat? Right? I was very much in my head. So we're going to see you do that over and over and over again in this call. I'm really excited.
Made you hungry too, right? I am. A little bit. What's really cool about this process is that even if you mislabel something because it's internal to the other person, they'll correct you. So, for example, we may deal with a lot of divorce leads, right, in this industry. Gosh, you're going through a divorce. That can be overwhelming. Well, you'll be talking to a husband and he's like, no, that B, she was cheating on me. I'm excited. It's like starting. Oh, wow, you're excited. You guys plan on partying anytime soon, or did you already do that, right? Like, you can turn it around so much quicker because if you mislabel an emotion, they'll correct you.
They'll tell you. Yeah.
Because they want to be heard. They want to be seen. They want to be felt, right? They want to feel safe. People want to feel seen, heard, and safe. And when you can assign that emotion or correct it by allowing them to do so, you'll go so much further. And this helps outside of the acquisition. This helps in marital relationships and interpersonal communications and father, son, daughter, wife, like all of your relationships, just having better conversations. And that's one of the things that my team and I have been really blessed to be able to teach this. So whenever you're ready, man, I'm ready.
I love it. This is teaching emotional intelligence. Absolutely. So this is why it translates, right? You're teaching a skill set that, it helps in acquisitions, but it helps in our personal lives and even our professional lives because it teaches us emotional intelligence. So I love it. Let's go ahead. This is the call. Let's go ahead and get started.
Let's do it. Oh, how are you, lady?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, fantastic. Hey, are you still packing up and getting out of town while the storm is coming?
Yeah, definitely. We're trying to wait out and see, but we might leave tomorrow morning. We might leave sooner. We'll see what happens with this weather.
Nice. Well, I hope that you bundle up, you stay safe, and drive careful. We were looking at that property over there on Crossbow.
Pause it.
I just had a few more.
All right. Well, there's so much to dissect, even just right here. Immediately, you mirrored her. You mirrored her. I don't know if you do it intentionally or naturally, but the way you're talking to me right now and the way you're talking to her is a little bit different. And this is something I have an ear for. So like immediately, as soon as you start talking to her, you're mirroring her tonality, you're mirroring her pace. And then you did what you just kind of taught a little bit before the call, which is you got into her world and you started asking her these questions. And then you started alluding to her safety, that you care about her. Hey, I want to make sure you're safe, you're comfortable. So she already feels like you're somebody who would keep her safe, make her feel protected because you actually care before you even brought up the house. So that, I just wanted to note that. We haven't even talked about the house yet, and you've done all these things. You've established all these things.
Yeah, literally 28 seconds in, right? 28 seconds in, and such a great catch. Like, I didn't even think to stop it and share that. So if you're watching this, make sure you go back and watch that based on what he said, because it's so true. And I'll tell you, like, don't let imposter syndrome, you guys, like, get in the way. I've done this 1,000,000+1 times. If this is the first time you're making a call, don't put yourself like on the same playing field and like, oh, I'll never be able to do that. Just practice.
Yeah.
Practice. I mean, you guys, I have my script on my desk. I practice every single day with my acquisition team, every day. And I've done this same script for almost 11 years, and I still practice. So great catch there. Great catch.
Awesome. We can keep going. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. Don't apologize. That's great. More questions for you, and I'm sure you probably have some for me, so I'll let you start. So right there. I don't know if you heard this. I started bridging the gap. Now, I don't have to build all this other rapport because my acquisition person already had a conversation. So you'll notice the first couple minutes, I kind of weave in and out of that and step two. But I want to show you guys something that I did. I'm going to rewind it here. Notice what I did. People, when you call to make your offer, whether it's your second, third, or 10th time you're calling to finally make an offer, a lot of times people are going to want to go in and just be like, all right, I'm ready to make an offer. Are you ready to take it? Well, yeah, they're ready to take it. They're ready to listen to it, think about it, talk to the spouse about it, pray about it, all these things that become walls and barriers versus I've got a few questions for you, and I'm sure you have some for me. So I'll let you start. No, listen to what I did. I actually put the ball back in their court to make them feel as if they're in control. And I'm doing what is called in neurolinguistic programming forward pacing. I'm allowing them to take the reins, but just like when we were all kids, if mom and dad ever let you sit in their lap and hold the wheel, they had your hand on the bottom of it, really controlling the car. That's what's happening here. Listen to this. More questions for you, and I'm sure you probably have some for me, so I'll let you start. Do you have any questions for me that maybe I can help answer or get checked off your list before we dive in and start playing ball with each other?
No, I mean, I don't think so. Not right now.
Not any? You guys, I'm on a call live showing you. I was so excited.
That's awesome. I love that.
So she said she didn't have any. I'm like, not any? Like curiosity? Watch what happens. She starts talking.
Yeah.
How do we do this?
We're looking, like I said, to sell the next month, and so just trying to see if it's something we can do.
Yeah. Well, something you can do and something you have to do are two different things. Let me ask you, is this something that you want to do or is this something that you have to do?
Ooh.
Notice the options. So both my wife and I have practiced and studied neurolinguistic programming for years, master practitioners around neurolinguistic programming. And one of the modalities that we use is what's called process versus options, right? So the house is a process. The house, selling of the house is the process. We got to have the contract. We got to have title. However, when they don't have to do it and they want to do it, now they're looking at options. That's the easiest way I can describe it. So they understand the process, but right now they're on the other side of options. They're weighing options. And if they have to do it versus they want to do it are two different things. And so as soon as a seller says something like that, you better believe either one, you better rack all day long, which you should be anyways, or two, you better be sharp on your rebuttals because they're going to have a bunch of objections all the way through. You'll notice by the end of this call, I get very little objections because I forward pace and ask these leading questions. So that way they start to answer their own questions. So I just want to point that out. This is options versus process.
Something we want to do.
Something you want to do. Good. And refresh my memory a little bit when we last spoke. Why are you selling this house today?
I mean, it's just we've been here for 20 years. We're moving on. We're getting rid of this property, and I'm done with it. I don't want to put a penny more in it. So.
Sounds like it's starting to get overwhelming.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, tell me about that. I mean, if there was one or two things, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you fix today? That's a perfect example of the rack.
Yep.
Gosh, It's starting to get overwhelming. I mean, and you heard the question, right? Ask a question. So now she's just going to start talking.
I mean,
you guys, I'm about to close this right here live. Drop a comment, share it out, whatever you do. I don't care what you do, just don't do nothing.
I love it.
The flooring. And what was the other thing you mentioned? Notice I was talking and I knew she was rambling.
Right.
But I heard flooring. The flooring. So I repeated.
Now you're racking. You're racking.
Exactly. Racking. I want you guys to get that. It's important. Rack. Put it in the comments. Rack. RAQ. Put it in the comments, you guys.
The HVAC.
Yeah. How long has it been since you had a chance to take a look at that?
I mean, we looked at it recently, which is why I'm saying I think we need to get it fixed and worked on, but I'm not dealing with it, so.
I don't blame you. It sounds a little frustrating, overwhelming, and all of the above, huh? Notice I said I don't blame you. She's already stressed out about it. I don't need to beat a dead horse, but I'm going to acknowledge what she said. I'm going to repeat it, right? Or acknowledge it.
Definitely.
Well, let's see what we can do to help you out. The question I have for you real quick, I'm curious, if I gave you cash today, what's the absolute lowest amount you have to take for this property?
I mean, I'm not.
So right there, so we've already went through step 3 where I started asking her defeating questions and I kind of am gauging, right? With my experience, I can kind of fast forward this call. But now we're 2.5 minutes into a 14-minute call, and I'm in step 3, between step 3 and step 4. I'm ready to close, but I need to break down her belief systems as to where she's at. So I forward pace and go to the numbers, and I work my way back with the questions that I start asking around her belief in the number that is there.
Taking a penny under 350.
350. Wow. And where did you get that number?
Oh, I mean, one of our neighbors like sold for 400 recently, and so I mean, we're not putting any work in it, so I know I can't get that, but I'm not taking a penny under 350.
Is that the neighbor that was like right next door to you that sold like 2 years ago? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, gotcha. That makes perfect sense. You know, most of the people that I talk to, not only do they want to know what we do, how we do it, and what we can offer, but they usually find this information from like talking to the neighbors or looking online. Where did you see that number that they sold at? I'm curious. So right there, I'm teeter-tottering back and forth, right, between step 2, 3, and 4, 2, 3, and 4. So in step 2, that bridging of the gap, I got to figure out, where is she getting this information? Like, I've got to start moving the weight onto the bar at the gym. I got to start piecing this puzzle together. That's what's happening right here.
Like Zillow.
Like Zillow? That makes sense.
Pause it real quick.
You know how Zillow...
So you do something that we like to call a third-party story, because you said something. I don't know what you call it in your process, but in our system we call it a third-party story, which is, hey, most of the people we talk to, or most of our sellers, or most of our customers, whatever that is, when you say that, you establish credibility that, hey, I do this, I've had experience with this, and this is what this is the typical archetype of a person who works with us. These are some of the questions or concerns they have. So you established all of that, and that led you to be able to easily ask the next question, where did you find that price? So I wanted to note that you're doing these techniques that I think are universal in all sales.
Yeah, and they're so simplistic and yet so profound, right? At the same time, and again, some people call it third-party stories. Some people call it third-party affirmation. I call it bridging the gap, or current versus desired reality, putting them in pools of people, putting people into groups, right? I mean, look at Facebook, for example. How's it been so successful? Because they created groups. Like, we only stroll through one person's Facebook stream or page for so long until we jump in the group and see what a lot of people are saying. Right? That's a good example. How much longer do you spend on, TikTok or Facebook versus Instagram? You want to see everybody else, what everybody else is doing. And so when we pool people together or keep up with the Joneses and identify where they're currently at versus where they want to be, their desired reality, then you can bridge that gap and move that weight from one side to the other. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
Not exactly. I mean, it's just an average of the properties, in our neighborhood. So
yeah, that's kind of how it works. Do you mind if I share how that works? Right there. So this is vitally important, especially to those of you that are out there actually walking property. A lot of times you're going through a house and you're like, gosh, man, we're going to have to repaint this room for sure. Like, nobody's buying that. Or this, we got to tear this wall down because everybody's got open concepts now. So that's going to be a big rehab cost. Like, we start breaking down what they care about. However, notice what I did here. I want to replay this last line here real quick.
Yeah.
Not exactly. I mean, it's just an average of the properties, in our neighborhood. So
yeah, that's kind of how it works. Do you mind if I share how that works? So I acknowledge what she said, and then I ask a question, or I ask permission. May I share with you how it really works? Because I've already established that I'm the authority in the conversation because I work and do this for everybody else. So now she's trusting me, but now I need permission to educate. I need permission to educate. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I have to say this. I've coached so many people. I've got people on my own team when I listen to our own call recordings. And this is where so many people fail because they try to do what you did, but they miss a key part, which is they say, nope, That's not how it works. Let me tell you how it works. Or no, you got it wrong. I'll tell you how it works.
Unfortunately, that's just not the way it is. Like, how many times have you heard that, right?
Oh my God. And that way, her guard, you've been breaking her guard down from literally the first 2 seconds of this phone call, right? Goes, do, 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 right? By doing what you just did, you get to accomplish what you want to accomplish, which is educating her, but you do it in a way where her guard still stays low by saying, yeah, right? Yeah, that's kind of how it works, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, you're validating. And then you want to share too, and she's got rapport with you. Of course, she wants to listen to what you say. I mean, obviously, you're a professional, and her logical brain is going to go, "Yeah, he knows what he's doing." But her emotional brain, which is what we have to appeal to, when somebody says, "Yeah, kind of, yeah, hey, can I share a little bit too?" Of course, my emotional brain will go, "Yeah, for sure, right? Oh yeah, let's hear it." And now you can accomplish the same thing without breaking her defenses down, right? Or
I like to call it seeing through the window.
tell me about that.
Yeah, so you still feel safe in your environment, but you can see what the reality is outside. Okay. I like to call it seeing through the window. So when I get permission, all that is doing is like opening the blinds. The window's not open yet. She hadn't said yes to work with me yet, but she opened the curtains to see a clearer picture. I like to call it seeing through the window. So a good catch on your part, man. I love that. You're a student in the game. I love it. So at this point, you guys, if you're watching this, what's happening here is she's like, sure, tell me how it works. She's given me permission. And like he said, I validated to some extent, but now I get to correct her and get her right back on track. Yeah, so Zillow, they take like a 5-mile radius of the neighborhood from the target location. So from your house, they go out 5 miles. They average out the homes in the area that have sold. And I'm sure you and I can both agree that your home and the home on the other side of the highway are 2 worlds apart. Yes?
Yeah, definitely.
Notice, I didn't say a specific house. I just said your house and the other houses on the other side of the highway. First thing that she did is in her subconscious, she looked through that window, that proverbial window, and she pictured that highway 5 miles away and the slum on the other side of the highway, or the big mansion on the other side of the highway. And she just separated the two in her head. That's what just happened there. You can use, if you're near a rate, if you're looking at like comps on MLS or Zillow or something, like you can use like a major highway. You can say a highway. You can say a train track. I love when I'm in like South any city, South Dallas, Southside Chicago, like south of the railroad tracks. I love using that. Like your house is definitely not the same as the houses on the other side of the railroad track, right? And as soon as they agree, you know that they started cracking the window, they're starting to let fresh air in, and they're starting to understand. And now it's much easier to break into that house or get in there and understand where they're at based on their response. Exactly. The other thing is if you look a little closer, your neighbor's house is about 1,500 square foot larger than your house. Were you aware of that?
No, I've always had the largest home in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and you've been there since 1974, right?
1997.
All right, so this is a little comical to me. So I said 1974, knowing that she told my acquisition person she's been there 20 or 30 years. That's a ridiculous like freeze frame there of my face. Somebody screenshot that and send it to my team. No, but what I did there was I tried to lighten the mood. I'm just lightening the mood because right now, everything that she believed about her property being the biggest, the best in the cul-de-sac, because this house was literally in a small cul-de-sac with 6 other homes, hers was the biggest. So she thought, I lightened the mood. I knew that she hadn't been there since it was built. She was the second owner. She had already told me that prior to the recording part of this. And she had told my acquisition person this. However, I set a later date, so she kind of chuckled. And then she gave me more accurate data, right? She corrected me. So now she feels like she's in charge again, giving her more confidence, but also creating a stronger bridge between the two sides, what she wanted and what she needs, okay? just kidding. I'm just kidding. 1997. So yeah, so you've been there a while. So you've seen a lot of things change. Were you aware that the neighbor's house was so much bigger than yours?
No, not at all.
And they have a pool and they have all that new fancy landscaping in the back. So it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Were you aware that their house was so much larger than yours? So a lot of people might just say, were you aware that their house was bigger than yours? Versus so much larger than yours. Just those small little things in the way that you enunciate your words will get people to move as well.
That's so you're leading them with these leading questions, right? Whereas I've seen so many people almost cop an attitude where they're like, no. Your house is not comparable to theirs. And let me tell you why. Or no, your house has a pool. What do you like? Just the way they do it is very confrontational. You're like a friend guiding them. And the tonality that I would label your tonality is curious. Like you're curious to like, does she know? Do you know that their house is so much different from yours? So I love that because subconsciously it's curious. You're not beating her down. You're not fighting with her. You don't have boxing gloves. You're very curious.
That's it, man. I appreciate that. Sorry, I'm sending a message real quick. Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, if more people were just curious, like in general, we would get so much more done, right? Versus, no, my belief here and my belief here, like just constantly doing this, whether we're talking real estate or personal relationships or politics or whatever, religion. It's like if you're more curious and just ask better questions, you would get more people to move in the direction you want them to go.
So much so. I actually got a question for us.
Yeah.
I can read. So Gabriel says, what if they don't believe that their house is smaller? And what if they give you pushback on that? What do you do then?
No, that's a great question. I mean, at the end of the day, the facts are the facts, right? And so what you'll notice that I do is in this example here specifically is that I use a number, but instead of saying, their house is 1,500 square foot bigger, I say, and watch what I do because it basically answers that, but their house is 1,500 square foot larger than yours. I actually stretch it out so that they can feel it, see it, hear it, whichever type of person that they are articulating. We have visual, we have kinesthetic, audio visual, audio kinesthetic, all the different types of persons and how we process data. By stretching it out and labeling it with the number, and then larger, they can see it, right? The analytical, the visual, and then the audio with the tonality, square foot, right? I speed it up so they catch it. You'll hear it when I do that. But if they give you pushback, I mean, at the end of the day, here's the deal. If their house is legit smaller and they want to argue that, there's other questions that you can ask. For example, Munif, go ahead and give me that as an objection. Like, no, mine's larger. Say that.
No, I've got the largest house in the block. What are you talking about?
Really? Yours is the largest?
Yeah, I've been living here for 20 years. It's always been the biggest.
Did you guys notice how he got defensive, but his tonality, even in a mock role play, his tonality went back and he started second guessing himself? Your seller will do the same thing. So watch what happens now. Oh, wow. You've been there 20 years and you've always thought that it was the largest? Did you do some sort of extension or add-on that maybe just wasn't permitted so that the rest of the world knows that you have a bigger place?
No. We just bought the biggest house on the block.
Back in 1972, right?
No, not
right there. See, even in a mock role play, he's gonna chuckle. He's gonna let his guard down. This is just the facts are the facts. So he thinks. Key word is so he thinks. Even in this mock role play, I'm asking questions that challenges belief, but make it light and easy. It's like, remember when we were kids and we had to take a medicine?
Yeah.
And mom put it in like Kool-Aid or something, right? She crushed up the pills and like put the ibuprofen in something else because we couldn't swallow it.
Right.
It's the same thing. We're masking the true like question within a lighter feeling or emotion to kind of let their guard down, and at the same time let them answer themselves.
So we're sugarcoating pretty much.
You're sugarcoating, exactly. Exactly. We're sugarcoating it because it could hurt. People don't want to face reality. That's just the reality of it. They don't want to face, right? They think they have the bigger, and they might. They may very well. I didn't know. However, what I do know is what I know for the facts, and the facts are that the tax appraisal, Zillow, and the MLS all said one thing, and she started telling me something else. So watch how I overcome that.
Okay.
You can see where, if their house is 400, your house is probably not close to that. Does that make sense? You caught that?
Can we repeat it? I want to hear that one more. I want to hear that again.
Yeah, let's start it back at the beginning of that exchange. So much bigger than yours?
No, it's not at all.
And they have a pool, and they have all that new fancy landscaping in the back. So you can see where, if their house is 400, your house is probably not close to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, so let me...
That's masterful, dude.
So I labeled their number, right? Like they sold it at 400. She thinks that hers is a little less valuable, but it's so far apart. It's nowhere near the number. Like basically just like, right? There's no way that can even happen.
So you're future pacing because you haven't even touched where you're at yet. You haven't even like shown that card, but you're almost subliminally future pacing where you're going to be because you're not using language that is implying that you're near there or the value is near there. You're implying the value is so far apart.
Yeah. And I know that I'm so far apart. So for me to come in right now at this point, it would almost be offensive. I've got to make sure that she understands that her number and my number aren't close, but I've got to also make her curious to want to come down. And so when I can put it on somebody else, right? I often say to my son, hashtag shout out to the middle school millionaire. I often say to my son, there are no excuses in life. There are either action and everything else. And if you don't take action, you don't get anything, right? So what's the takeaway here, right? Like on your show, what's the takeaway? If you're going to make excuses, make it someone else's excuse. So not her number, not my number, but the fact is their number over there, that's why. And it's somebody that's a mutual ground. It's somebody that we both acknowledge. So she's basing her number off of that person. I'm going to base my number off of that person. I'm going to make an external excuse as to why her number and my number internally just don't work. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I got a comment right here. It says Sam Singh says Bryce sequentially negotiating reductions is masterful. I am stealing this. Awesome.
Appreciate you, Sam. Appreciate you. You guys, we're like 5 minutes into a 14-minute call.
We might have to do a part 2. I mean, this is so much value. I mean, guys, should we have Bryce come back here? If we don't finish this call, guys, put it in the comments. Should we have Bryce come back? He's incredibly busy. He runs multiple companies. He's doing this for free. And you know what? Maybe we don't make up our mind yet. Maybe, if there's enough comments, if enough people take a screenshot of this and they post it and they tag me and they tag Bryce, go to the Sub2 page, go to the free creative page. Bryce, what are your Facebook pages?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So one, I've got about 10 or 15 minutes left, so we can get through most of it. But if we get enough people that are like, yeah, come back, I would be honored to, but we definitely need to make it worth all of our times, right? So, I've got a virtual wholesaling group. It's virtual wholesaling real estate tips and techniques. And if you guys are interested in seeing more calls like this, the first 3.5, 4 years of my coaching journey, I recorded. There's hundreds of cold calls just like this in the video section of that group. It's called Virtual Wholesaling Real Estate Tips and Techniques. And yeah, I go back sometime and study my own tape. I can't lie. And there's 3 or 4 years worth of coaching calls. We do a guest speaker tomorrow. We actually have your business partner, Noah, coming in talking about Airbnb. So that's in that group. We'll be streaming live in there. There's about 4,000 or 5,000 of us in this mastermind. I'm super excited to be sharing your business partner with my audience over there in that group there. So yeah, virtual wholesaling real estate tips and techniques. There's almost 4 years of cold calls and coaching calls. And once a month, we have a guest speaker as well. So
that is amazing. I put it up here for the chat to see. And then, yeah, guys. So Bryce, your Instagram is that Coach
Sharpen.
Coach Sharpen. There we go, and it's right there in your name. It cuts off at the little end there, but I'm gonna actually write it in the chat for. So tag Bryce, tag me, take a screenshot if you like this, and even if you're watching this after the fact, whether you're watching it on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, you're watching this after the fact. Tag us, and if we get a lot of tags and engagements, definitely we will come back and do a part 2, because we're not going to finish this call in the next 10-15 minutes. There's no way. There's so much to dissect here. And he closes this one. You close this call, right?
Yeah. We actually end up getting it under contract at $230,000.
Holy cow! And she was, her anchor. Not necessarily her asking, but her anchor was about $400,000, right? She was using that property that sold at $400,000 to anchor you, and you got her in the low 200s.
Yeah. Her bottom line was $350,000.
Wow.
That was the kind of where she wanted to be. That was So sometimes I don't understand it. I've been blessed, but I also do a lot of practice.
Oh, I can tell.
That's what it boils down to.
I was sharing this to my sales team. They're like, this guy is so technically sound. Like your technique. Like we can tell that you've been practicing technique. A lot of this stuff, people think you're born a salesman, or a saleswoman. You're just good at it, or you're not. But what they don't understand is so much of this business is technique and practice. And just from listening to you, just from even dissecting this, we can point out some key areas of technique and practice.
Yeah, for sure. Ready to
go? Yeah, let's go.
Let me ask you this. If I gave you cash today, what's the absolute lowest amount you'd have to get to make this a win-win for both of us?
I mean, 400, 350. We might could do 300.
You might be able to do
Whoa. Hold on. We got to pause that. You asked the same exact question, the same exact way. You never said no. You never said, get the hell out of here, or screw you, or you're way off. She gave you a number. You questioned it. You walked her through it. You gave her some sugar-coated pills. You racked. And then you asked the same exact question after that conversation. And now, magically, she comes down $50,000.
Always 3 to 5. So if you go back and you're watching this, notice 3 to 5 racks, 3 to 5 racks between transition or to the close, right? I'm going from step 3 into step 4. This is where we start to close. And I can't just go in for the kill. I can't go in for the jugular, because I need to know where she's at, right? I need to temperature check to see if I'm still on pace. So when she tells me this, and I know that she came down 50 grand, that gives me the confidence to know that I got to come down. I can come down more, and she will. I just don't know how much. So I go back to something that's comfortable for her, which is the exact same question that she started out with, which in this case was, if I gave you cash, and you'll notice when I ask it again later, I change it up and I make it easy, and we get it checked off your list. What's the absolute lowest amount you take today? Like future, not in this one, but in the next one, I ask the exact same thing, and I start stacking the value. In marketing, they call that the value stack, right? So we start doing that as this progresses, but you've got to make sure that when you're asking the important questions, you ask it the same way that you did the previous time that got the response that you were looking for. Where is she at? 350. Now she's probably down at 300, she says. I think we're getting close. Let me ask you this. Have you ever done a rehab on a house this size, of this caliber, with this high-end quality of finish outs? I'm starting to stack the value, right? So now I need to stack the overwhelming task and project that she's going to have to go through to get her higher number she wanted, or that I'm going to have to go through in order to take the risk on the investment. Have you ever done a rehab? Notice my curiosity of this caliber to this high value of a home in this type of neighborhood, right? I start to stack the value. And in this case, it's not value in the positive, it's value in the negative. So I'm creating a limiting belief, like it's going to be overwhelming. Do you have the money? That's where I'm headed with this.
Not really.
When was the last time you did any like updates, upkeeps, or maintenance on the property?
I mean, we're always checking on things and whatnot, but like anything bigger has probably been like 6-7 years.
6 or 7 years. What did you do then? Curiosity.
You sound so friendly. This entire conversation, this entire phone call, you're such a friend. You're such a friend to her, from your tonality, from even when you're negotiating with her, like the way you do it. You're not like, hey, that's too high, I can't do that, oh, you're killing me. You don't say anything like that. Hey, given this, what's the best, cash in your hand today, what's the lowest you can do? And the way you even ask that is so friendly. She'll give you a number, and then you just ask more questions. That's it. You're not even telling her number sucks, and you're using positive words, which I really like. Hey, we're getting closer. Like you're encouraging her, actually. Hey, we're getting closer. We're almost there, right? And you're encouraging her, and it's interesting seeing the emotional journey you're taking her through, because there is one.
I'll give you guys a golden $1 million nugget. Always answer a question with a statement followed by a question, and always answer a statement with a question. So when she says a statement, I'll repeat, acknowledge, and ask a question, right? But if she makes a question, just a direct response, the quickest response, the smartest response. And if there is no response, take the time to breathe and pause, so that way it's not coming across this fluff. So if somebody asks me a question, I'm going to repeat it back. Gosh, it sounds like you're frustrated. My response is this, whatever it is, right? Answer it with a statement. So question is always responded by a statement. A statement is always responded by a repeat and question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And when they ask you a question, real quick, when they ask you a question, you answer it, and then you also ask a question.
Absolutely.
So you're asking questions no matter what.
That's it.
No matter what. And I want people who are watching to know this. At no point is Bryce just gonna talk. Right? It's anytime you talk, you're painting a picture, you're leading them down through something, but it's always gonna be ended by a question.
And the expression on my face here is a perfect example. I'm listening so intentionally. I'm listening in between the lines. If her statements and questions or answers to my questions were written on the paper, right now I'm listening between the lines. That's how I always describe it. When I'm teaching salespeople, it's start to listen in between the lines. And when you do that, you'll find that they'll tell you more with what they're not saying versus what they're actually saying.
I love it. I freaking love it. All right, let's go.
We did the cabinets, and we did the kitchen and the counters, and we've done paint.
Ooh. So you spent what, 20, 30 grand to do that on the house like that?
Yeah.
Stacking the weight of the rehab. And she just did surface level stuff. So I didn't say a specific number, 20 or 30 grand to do that, right? I just started stacking that heavy burden, and it was just a surface level, like I just did a little rehab. I didn't want to be kicked out of my house for 6 months type of rehab. So I just spruced it up a bit, but I stacked that cost and labor and challenge. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So let me ask you this. have you looked at that same type of cost or rehab now today?
Oh, no, not at all.
Curiosity. Were you aware that with the pandemic and everything that's going on, like build cost and materials have almost doubled? So again, I'm asking, I'm not telling her that they've doubled. I'm asking her if she's aware with the pandemic, with the lack of labor in the job market right now, because people want that free government money. I think I make a smart aleck comment like that. You know, it's like, it's hard to keep our contractors right now busy because they don't want to work. They take a free check. But instead of telling her that, I can ask a better question and ask her if she's aware of that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've been hearing about the cost of wood for sure.
So now she acknowledged. One of my former partners, you guys may have recognized his name, Chris Voss. He wrote the book, Never Split the Difference.
Oh, yeah, Chris Voss, you know him?
Yeah. Well,
personally?
We've done some hostage negotiation training with the CIA and things like that, right?
Oh,
so he says never split the difference, or one of the things that he is saying is to, or has said is, get somebody to say that's right versus you're right. And right here is a perfect example of that, where I asked her if she was aware, and she's like, oh, yeah, and this and this. And she's like, that's right, you're right, without saying you're right. She's acknowledging that what I asked her was a fact, and she's owning it in her subconscious. So now that she's taken ownership of that cost is double or triple, well, now my 20 or 30 that I just said is minimally 40 to 60 now. So now I get the opportunity to ask her if she even has the money or willing to put it in. Watch. I hear a baby. You're keeping that baby quiet, I hope. Warm with form, right? Heard the baby. I got to bring the baby in there. Right. Is it time to eat? Is that what? Notice I make a chuckle. I make a chuckle because it just got real. She just owned something that she didn't want to. I've heard that baby 3 or 4 times through this call. Now I get to use it to lighten it up because she just swallowed a really big pill of.
We're sugarcoating again, right? We're sugarcoating constantly.
Yeah. Why he's perking up?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I won't keep you too long. Do you mind if I share with you kind of what's happened on the build side of things, so that way I can help you understand what you're up against if you and I don't work a deal?
Yeah, of course.
They call that in sales the takeaway. When you're trying to get somebody else to sell you something, it's 10 times harder to take your deal off the table. So now I've got to ask permission. And she gives me permission, and I basically just tell her, at this point, I'm not even sure if we're close. So, and then we go into it. Yeah, so your $30,000 or $40,000 like 8-9 years ago is more like 80 to 100,000. Not only have build costs and materials almost doubled and tripled, we've also had this thing called inflation. You've heard of that before, right?
Of course.
Yeah, so like not only is it 30 or 40,000 plus inflation, it's also more like 60 to 80,000 because everything is doubled and tripled depending on what you're doing. And you've got a beautiful home at one time. It just needs a little TLC, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So let me ask you this. Being conservative, let's say that it cost you $50,000 to fix this thing up. Notice I stacked all the numbers in bunches, 30 to 60, 50 to 80. And then when I start going in to ask a question, I give her a specific number. Being conservative, $50,000, right? But I made it bigger and I labeled it, right?
What I really liked about what you did here is you're still doing that thing where you're bridging, because maybe reality is 60 to 80, right? But when you go to her side, right, where she is, you conservatively say 50, right? So now she's like, oh, he's being conservative. Yeah, 50. I can agree with that, right? You're not using the 80 number because she's going to resist that. That's all the way over there. You're coming back to her. You're using 50, which is you're still going to get what you want. You're still increasing it from maybe a $20,000 budget in her head to 50. The way you framed it, you're taking the lower and then you're bringing it to her side. So I just want people to note that you're doing these small things.
Yeah, I call it the teeter-totter effect. The teeter-totter, if we all remember when we were kids, I don't even think they have teeter-totters nowadays because these kids are soft, but we all had teeter-totters when we were kids, man.
Right.
get hit in the chin because it goes up and sometimes it hurts. But if you found a really good friend that looked like you, felt like you, same size like you guys could have fun all day long, right?
Right.
So when we get on this teeter-totter and what I call teeter-totter negotiating, I can't just like jump off and let the teeter-totter go up.
Yeah.
Or I can't just like jump off and let her go slamming down, right? I've got to be that friend that push back and forth, and then only will you allow more people on the teeter-totter, more thoughts on the teeter-totter. Remember, if you ever been on a teeter-totter, your friends would come over and you see how much fun you're having, and then can we get on and like go find a friend, so it evens it out. And next thing you know, you got 3 or 4 people on both sides of that teeter-totter. And in the conversation, we do that by value stacking the negative with the facts, right? Or individual numbers like we just did here, like with the 50 versus the 30 to 80, right? Somewhere in the middle, conservative. And you kind of cut some corners and you list it on the market for $350, like you said you want to get. Do you have $50,000 to get it up to that market value?
I mean, we do, but we're just not going to spend it on this house.
Spend it when you can put it toward a new one, right?
Exactly.
I don't blame you. So that's the desired reality. Like, why would you spend the money when you can put it toward a new one? And if you guys notice, I use the word house versus home all the time in this conversation. So earlier I used the word home. It was a beautiful home. Now you could use this money for your new home. But this house, you guys see what I'm doing there?
Yes.
Like if you guys are watching this and you're seeing and loving this, like put a comment down below, say something, put a nugget that you got. Like that is so simple to me, but you guys need to know that. House versus home. If it's home and you're talking to them, put it in past tense or future tense. But right now, the current reality is it's just a house and it's a check mark that needs to be checked off your list.
Yeah, we want to detach the emotions. Home has a lot of emotions, right? When you're like, hey, where do you call home, or where's your home? I have emotions when I talk about that, right? But a house is just a noun, right? It's just a thing. It's not a home. Home is where the heart is, right? So this used to be a home, and that new future home, right? Yeah. This is a house. So those are some really key things. Thank you.
Yeah. That's where I come in, and what most of my clients love about what we do is not only do we close 40, 50, 60. So right here, now I'm on the other side of the teeter-totter. I've got to make it balance. Now I start adding the value over here that's going to benefit her to take away all of this weight and pressure that I built. 60 houses a month, but we have not only do we close 40, 50, 60 houses a month, but we have the experience to do the build, the flip, and all of that stuff with a lot shorter time and ease, and then we save some cost. But if you were going to do the same thing, you're looking at, I mean, what did it take years ago? 3 months, 5 months, 6 months to do what you want to do?
Yeah, it took a few, 2, 3 months, I think.
Yeah.
Like that.
So now double that, because workers are scarce. They want that free government. Now I can start free government, right? Now I can start, like I teeter-tottered. I added some value on my side. I went back to hers. She acknowledged, and now I can go back and forth. And now the call really starts to pick up. Government money, so they don't want to work. And the cost that the build cost is going to be, 2 and 3 times what it was. You're easily talking 80 to 100 grand to do what you and I just conservatively set at 50 grand. So I want to work these numbers back just so that they make sense. May I do that for you?
Of course.
Permission. So you're at 350. I think your number's right on the money. Maybe even close to 400 on the retail market. Notice on the retail market. So I validated her. You have to validate her. But if we use your 50,000 being conservative, I think it's more like 75 or 80,000. If we use the 50,000, now your 400 is 350. Here's the deal. When you list it with an agent, you're looking at 6 to 8%. And right now it's competitive. Agents can get whatever they want because inventory is low, demand is high, and they can charge more. But let's just say you got a good deal with a good agent and they gave you like 3. Notice I planted. They could get more, so you might lose even more.
But you're teeter-tot. You constantly do this.
Yes.
You're like da 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 da. but we're gonna talk about this. Da-da-da-da-da, but we're gonna come here. Da-da-da. Constantly. I feel like if we re-listen to this call from the beginning, we re-listen to this. I want to count. Like we had a counter for how many times you teeter totter.
Yeah.
We'd be like in the dozens right now, man.
Maybe the StreamYard, we could like do another version and like just do a tally, like a little ticker or whatever at the bottom. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah,
Awesome.
good catch.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
I do want to. I know the call is going to pick up. I know it's going to get interesting, and it's going to get even juicier, right? And we're seeing all these things you're really doing to kind of. It's kind of like cooking, and you're prepping the steak. You've cut up the vegetables. You've seasoned the steak, and we're going to throw it on the pan. But before we do that, I know you got to
let it sizzle, right?
yeah, we're gonna let it sizzle. But I mean, look, we're an hour and 10 minutes in. Right, we're how many minutes? We're like 15 minutes into a call, or even less. I can't really see what how much is left, but there's the good stuff left. I don't think we're going to be doing everyone a service if we get into the meat and potatoes. I know you've got another call coming up. I've actually got one too. Why don't we maybe we'll do a part 2, but we really need people to actually show us that this is something they want to watch, that this is something they will attend, that will actually give them value. Because if we're not really giving them value, there is other stuff we could be doing. I know there's stuff I can be doing. I for sure know there's stuff you could be doing. So why don't we, guys in the comments, if you got value from this, share one takeaway. Go to Bryce's Facebook group that he posted. Go join the Facebook group here. I'll put it up here. It's called Virtual Wholesaling Real Estate Tips and Techniques. Go join the Facebook group. Go tag Bryce. Go to the free creative financing Facebook group or the sub 2 group and share what you learned. We did this for free. Show this video, link this video, and share one thing you learned. And if Bryce and we get enough tags, we get enough commitment, enough people want to watch a part 2 and see how he closed this deal, learn from the techniques of one of the top 5 best sales trainers in the world, actually, in the world, go make a post. Tag us on Instagram, tag us on Facebook. Let us know that this is something you want to see a part 2 of.
That's it. You guys, I just took it a step further. I put the chat. If you stayed this long, there's like 20 or 30 of you. Thank you. And I just put the actual link to the group directly in the chat for you guys. So if you want to go and watch this on your own, but make sure you do exactly what he said. This is his stream. And so for that, Munif, thank you, bro. I thoroughly enjoy teaching and training. And I think that's where my passion is to really see people like get the results and get the light bulbs. And so I'm excited to see what their takeaways are from what they watched so far. And I'm looking forward to coming back. You guys like it, love it, share it, whatever you do. Just don't do nothing.
Yes, don't do nothing. Thank you so much, Bryce. Thank you. You didn't have to do this. You didn't have to literally put your business on hold. Put there are money-making activities you could have been doing. You put all of that on hold to be here with us and give us value. Thank you. I cannot wait to have you back next time.
I'm excited. You guys, God bless. Stay sharp. We'll see you on the next takeaway.
All right. See ya.